Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Batinah, north and south in Oman. I don't think you can see the name of the country in the shot, but we are in beautiful, beautiful Oman, the land of frankincense. I've been asked a few times, what is frankincense? Frankincense is a tree resin, essentially. It grows plentifully in Oman, and pretty much, in a nutshell, it's where the first designer perfume would have been first assembled, because this ingredient was very highly desired in perfumes, and it was very expensive to get and very much desired by all of the royalty, pharaohs, emperors of the ancient world. So in a nutshell, it's pretty much where the designer perfume industry would have begun. Which brings me to Dossier perfumes, right? Let me show you. Tonight I have on woody oak moss, which is really nice. It's not frankincense, sadly, but of course that's still a very desired perfume ingredient, right? But woody oak moss kind of gives me that feeling of sort of a really luxurious tree scent. It's got that wonderful bergamot top note, but then you get that beautiful jasmine and rose, so it's very strong and almost a little musky, but then you get that sweet smell in the middle and the base notes. And I love it so much. It's perfect for summer evenings, I think. It kind of is like the most masculine feminine scent, in my opinion. Woody oak moss is actually based on the ingredients of Coco Mademoiselle, which is a very highly sought after perfume. It retails for about $240 a bottle. This goes for $29. It's a steal. You can smell so luxurious without breaking the bank. So you can head over to dossier.co. I'll put the website down in the box, and you can get some really incredible designer scented perfumes for really good prices. And they have lots of ways you can save even more. They have a rewards program. They've got coupons all the time. I get coupons in my email non-stop for Dossier. It's so neat. There's always a way to save. I can't recommend it enough if you like yummy smells like I do. You know, I have chronic migraine, and scents really bother me, like really strong smoke scents. Like there's a bunch of different kinds, so I really rely on perfumes and sweet smelling things to try to block that out. And Dossier has been a big help, because one little spritz and I'm good for the evening. It smells so good. Again, check out Dossier. So many great ways to save on some wonderful scents. I'm sure all the ancient emperors and pharaohs would have been very jealous of us getting such fantastic scents for such fantastic prices. So with that out of the way, let's talk more about Oman. I love Oman. I think Oman is one of the most interesting countries, like today in the modern world. It's very tourism friendly, and Batinah is no exception, the Batinah region here. The region was split in two in 2011, and I kind of see why, because each region, the north and the south, have their own kind of vibes. The north is more of a beach coastal area. Pretty much everyone who lives here lives along the coastline, and it's beautiful. You can see the capital city here of Sohar. Talk about that in history, of course, but lots of farming here. It's one of the breadbaskets of Oman. So you have like the beaches and the beautiful coast and the cities, and then the next layer is farmland. It's very, very lush and green. I'll show you on Google Earth. There's just like a strip of green going down here. It gets much rockier and things out here, but that's nothing compared to South Batinah, all Batinah south. Whereas north is the coast kind of vibe. Batinah south is a mountainous kind of vibe, even though they also have like a coastline here. It's all about this interior area where there's absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous mountains and valleys. This whole region, we talked about Antakya before on my channel, but this mountainous region is known as the Grand Canyon of Oman. Sort of course, not in the scope of the Grand Canyon. Nothing is on Earth, but the same kind of features, the same kind of cliffs and canyons and rivers and all of that can be found here. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can see right smack dab is the capital of the region, Rostock, which we'll also talk about a bit in history. So even though like the north has mountains, the Al Hajar Mountains slice right through here, and even though the south has the beautiful coastline here on the Gulf of Oman, this one's more known for the coast. This one's more known for the mountains. There's also some really pretty islands here off the south. I'll show you on Google Earth. They're too tiny to be on the map, but I don't want to spoil what's special about them. I'm going to show you. So let's get into the history here of the region. The earliest civilization that would have lived here is known as the Majan. And they were very, very interesting. They were technically a Sumerian culture, because just up the water here you get to ancient Mesopotamia. So the Majan, they used cuneiform in their writing, and they were famous for shipbuilding and trade. So they would have gone up, to the Mesopotamian valleys up there. They traded over this way with the Indus Valley civilization in what's now Pakistan. Pretty much if you were somebody in this time period, you would have traded with the Majan. Really, really interesting. And that is where the frankincense trade would have began. This is Sohar, like I said. This was the very first town to ever be established in what's now Oman. And it was used as that shipping center to send out that beautiful frankincense scent to the rest of the world. And of course, import from all areas of the world as well. And eventually, they would be replaced by other cultures. They would have faded to obscurity. The Persians, the Achaemenids, had a hand in this region as well. I think they established Rostock, actually. What's interesting about this area is that it is part of the, it's the Aflaj. Well, the plural is Falaj, the singular is Aflaj, which we talked about when we talked about Antakya down here. But I'm going to show you again because it's a UNESCO World Heritage site. There's like 400 of them, so it's not one site. So they're all throughout this area of Oman. But I'm going to show you on the tablet here. This is kind of old news. I talked about it. We talked about Antakya. But we're going to do it again because we're talking about Batinah. The Aflaj irrigation systems of Oman. Let's see. It says the property includes 5 Aflaj irrigation systems and is representative of some 3,000 such systems. Okay, I said 400, I was way off. 3,000 such systems still in use in Oman. The origins of this system of irrigation may date back to the year 500, but archaeological evidence suggests that irrigation systems existed in this extremely arid area as early as 2500 BCE. Using gravity water is channeled from underground sources or springs to support agriculture and domestic use. The fair and effective management and sharing of water in villages and towns is still underpinned by mutual dependence and communal values and guided by astronomical observations. Numerous watchtowers built to defend the water systems form part of the site, reflecting the historic dependence of communities on the afflage system. Threatened by falling level of the underground water table, the afflage represent an exceptionally well-preserved form of land use. So you can see this one going through the town. It was a very creative way of making irrigation and canals, coming down from those big high mountains, building little channels for the water to go through so that it can go to their farms. And like it said, still in use today. You can find these all over in this area of Oman. Get that out the way. So, up here in the mountains, you can see all the wadis here, you know. There's lots of underground water. There's also lots of hot springs in this area as well. Isn't that interesting? But they would channel that underground water to create the beautiful farming system which is still in use today. As we go through history, the Arabs would come into the area and bring Islam with them. I think around the time of the Prophet's death, like either just before or just after in this region. And of course, it's the dominant religion to this day. And not much in terms of history would have really happened here until the Portuguese arrived in the 16th century. They sailed up the Gulf of Oman and controlled the Strait of Hormuz. Here you can barely say the Strait of Hormuz. This area was part of the Kingdom of Hormuz. The Portuguese said, it's ours now, and they started building fortresses along the coast here to defend their waterway. And the people here, especially in Sohar, rebelled. Not a fan of the Portuguese, as you can imagine, but they held power for a good 100 years or so until they were kicked out by the Yarubids. The Yarubid dynasty began in Rostock, up here in the mountains. They said, enough of the Portuguese. They're not part of our culture. They just showed up and took over. We want them out. And the movement spread down the coast, and they kicked out the last of the Portuguese in 1636 and held a firm control over the region for quite a bit after that. If you know your history of the Arabian Peninsula, it's a lot of tribes that rose and fell from power as one would conquer the other. So that was the strongest one at the time. Lots of cool forts and castles from that time as well. But you know, the only really big important change after that was when the Al Said family would take control in the 1800s, because that is still the ruling family of Oman to this day. They are still in control. And pretty much that is it, other than, like I said, they redistributed the land in 2011 and drew some more lines on the map. I think there are only like 4 regions of Oman before that, so they sliced it up into a bunch more. And the Batinah region here was just one big region. They made it north and south because, like I said, it's very geographically different from one from the other. So smart move, I think. That is where we are today. I'm just checking my notes. I had a little note about Sahar that didn't really fit into history, so I just crammed it into a margin. Apparently, Sohar is where Sinbad the sailor is from. I always just associated him with Iraq and Baghdad because he's part of the 1001 Arabian Nights, which was written in Baghdad, but he is from Sohar, and he sailed out on his 7 voyages having grand adventures and would always come back with treasures and stories and things. So that's really interesting to me, but doesn't really fit in history anywhere, right? Let me grab Google Earth so I can show you this amazing region. Let me close UNESCO and pull up the Google Earth here. There we go. So let's explore. You can see, here, let me just highlight Sohar here so that I can zoom out and show you exactly where we are in the world if you don't know where Oman is located. You can see it here on the Arabian Peninsula. We've got Iran up here, the Middle East, Turkey, here's Africa, Europe, Asia. Right in the middle of everything. Perfect for trade, right? Let's check out this area. Starting with Sohar, I suppose. Let's look at the slideshow here so you can see some of the beautiful mosques and buildings in this region. The current ruling family is really big on modernization and architecture. You know, they're oil rich, right? But Oman is very different from like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, in that they love architecture, but they also love their heritage. You can see one of the old forts here. They love their heritage very, very much in Oman. So that oil wealth goes 100% back to the people to enrich their lives and, you know, make it modern, but not like the glamorization of like Dubai, you know. They put a lot into cultural heritage. So you can find, this looks like a really cool seaport, looks like a boat. You can find lots of cool mosques in beautiful styles all throughout Oman. So let me show you this coastline. You can see the little belt of green I was talking about, just going all down the coast there. And that all comes from the irrigation. You can see the ports. Liwa is the big port. The big port area you can see here for sure is the biggest. But you can tell there's so many little farms and things here along the beautiful coastline. Really neat. And of course it gets much more dry and mountainous as you enter the Al-Hajar Mountains here. Interestingly, I thought I was going to show you some cool slideshow stuff in the north, but I found the coolest stuff in the south. So let's head over there. Look at these mountains. Like, you can even tell from above. Let me turn on the 3D. That there are some absolutely gorgeous mountain formations, rock formations and things here. It's so pretty. It's also where you can find Jebel Shams, the highest point in Oman. Pull that up, stop rotating so I can show them the mountain. Jebel Shams, look at this. You see now why they call it the Grand Canyon, right? Look how beautiful. You can do all kinds of exploring like these goats are doing here. And see these majestic landscapes and cliffs and mountains and the rivers coming through. You can tell that the rivers have been, you know, cutting through this rock since forever. Go camping and see all the little villages up in the mountains. More goats. It is such a beautiful place, and it's a place that Oman takes a lot of pride in this area. It's so pretty. Look at that. That doesn't look real. That looks like it was like generated, you know. It's real though. How amazing is that? If we zoom in, we can see there's some wadis there. I wanted to find a hot spring to show you, but I think if I just show you pictures of Rostock, we might see some hot spring pictures. Let me reorient myself and take you to Rostock. Okay, now I'm reoriented. There we are. Rostock. The big fort is the big feature, the Rostock Fort. I think I was reading on their website that it's not open. You can't just walk in. You need like a historical permit or a government permit to explore it, which is really interesting because a lot of the forts are open to the public. They're open air museums, but this one is very well preserved. Very, very neat. So pretty. That's a neat shot from above. You can see the shape of the structures here. There's something like it almost looks like a Portuguese fort in a way because the Portuguese always had that kind of diamond shape to it, but it's definitely not. There's some beautiful date palms here next to this cute village in the mountains. Look at this shot. That's so pretty with the light just right. Big bustling cities and little town areas. I guess there aren't pictures of the hot springs here. So let's explore and try to find one. Oh, there we go. I found it. Alcaspa Hot Spring. Apparently the hot springs in the mountains here are very hot. Like you can still enjoy them, but they are like ooh, very hot. You have to kind of slowly sink into them. Look at this old tower. How cool is that? They're also apparently very, very stinky. Reek of sulfur. You can see the water coming through here. And I think judging by the tower and all that, you know, this area has been visited by people to relax in the hot water for a long time. Brain holes that way. But yeah, there's lots of places where you can enjoy the hot springs. Just be warned that you will come out stinking like sulfur. What's that? Museum? I haven't seen this. Kusra Museum. Let's check this out. I haven't seen this. That's a neat little area there, kind of recreating what these old kind of Bedouin areas would have looked like. I like that there's a lot of museums I've explored in like Saudi Arabia and the UAE that are just like they take these artifacts and like put them in arrangements of how they would have looked before, like this. All of this old pottery and china and everything just neatly displayed like they would have been. I think that's a neat style for a museum. Makes it much more like enjoyable, like you can understand what these things were for. Look at the little TV. Instead of just being behind a glass case, you know. Old bottles. Oh my goodness, look at this. This is Arabic for sure, but this is ancient. It's so neat. I was reading about how in Batinah they have their own dialect of Arabic, their own words and things, which I think me being from California, I understand because there's words we use in California that aren't used anywhere else in the United States. So yeah, the last place I want to show you is the coastal area here of Batinah South. And like I said, there are some major areas here. I am, of course, getting lost. I don't see the ones I want to show you. Barca is one of them. But they're not as big and thriving as the ones in the north. But I want to show you these islands out here. I didn't write down their names, so if I zoom in, hopefully the name will pop up eventually. Oh, just the names of the islands. Maybe it'll pop up here. Dimanihat Islands. There we go. These islands are nature reserves, and first of all, how inviting does that look? Let's go under the water and see why people visit these islands, because you can see some really incredible green turtles. And just be among the turtles here and the rocks and the coral. Look how sweet. And see all kinds of fish, wildlife under the water. And you know that water must feel amazing, right? Look at this guy dive in just his trunks, right? It must be so warm, and it's so clear and beautiful. And you can see all the turtles and maybe turtles. But lots and lots of beautiful turtles, beautiful sunsets. Perfect for scuba diving and snorkeling. There's another slideshow over on this island in this gorgeous reef, Yasmina Reef. See more sweet turtles here. Looks like brain coral, doesn't it? And just get to swim and enjoy this amazing, amazing coral. There's something about, like, there's the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, and then not so much the Arabian Sea, but like Red Sea and Persian Gulf. It's like some of the best places to go scuba diving. Look at this eel. Like, the water is crystal clear, it's warm, it's full of sweet animals and beautiful things to see under the water. So this is one of those areas to do that in. How amazing is that? I love it. Anyway, I'm going to end it right there for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please consider subscribing. We're going to every little corner of the world. Next, we're going to be hopping down one country down to Yemen, where I'm going to show you some even more incredible canyons and things. I won't spoil anything else. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good night. Good night.